Exploration! Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is Let's Explore, and I know that I need to get back to Doom and Chex Quest, but for now we are going to play Caves of Cud. It is a wonderful roguelike by the folks at Freehold Games. This game has been sucking up so much of my time, and so we are going to jump in. Let's get rid of this cursor. It's just going to distract us. So we will hit new game in 3, 2, 1, and new game starts. So when you start off, character creation is huge, so we'll be doing a lot of character creation. It won't be too long, but it will still be really interesting, I promise you. Caves of Cud has amazing character creation. You can choose a Truekin, which is kind of a safe choice of, you know, you have more skills and you have a lot of reputation with this group called the Templars. And I like that you have like all these reputation boosts right away and you don't really know what they are. You're like, the Templars, oh, maybe I want to be on their good side, even though you don't know who they are. So, I mean, there's definitely something alluring to that idea, and it's called Truekin, and it sounds really exciting, but mutated human is the way to go. Mutations are great, and you can do all sorts of cool stuff. Your starting attributes are a bit lower, that's why Truekin is sort of a bit more appealing, maybe if you're a first-time player, but mutations are where all the fun is to be had. I'm going to play a tough character. I'm going to play a sort of a sword and board type character. So I want a little bit of agility. And then I actually want a lot of toughness right there. So we'll just max it out. And then I'm going to put the rest into intelligence, which will give me extra skill points. Willpower is mostly for mental mutations. It affects your HP regeneration. And then ego is sort of talking to people and haggling and things like that. For the purposes of this video, we're not too worried about that. We're going dungeon delving, so I really want to have a tough character. This is the best stuff in Caves of Cud, though, so there are morphotypes that you can select if you really want to focus on just one type of character. There are chimeras, which are physical mutations, and then espers, which are mental mutations, and then unstable genome, which you get extra mutations. Every time you gain a level, there's like a 1 in 3 chance that you will get to choose from a random set of mutations. It's really, really cool. And you can see there's a list of all kinds of stuff, and we'll get into that list in a little bit. Mental mutations, you can be clairvoyant, you can manipulate light, you can create force fields, you can have precognition, all sorts of cool stuff. You can tear holes in space-time and suck enemies into them. Although that, no, that's not a physical mutation. But there's also defects. Defects are really cool. They can be something basic like albinism or being cold-blooded. Like actually cold-blooded, not like, oh, I'm cruel, but like legitimately cold-blooded. Hemophilia, so if you get cut, you'll bleed a lot more, which is really dangerous in a roguelike because you die so often in roguelikes. But mental defects have some of my favorite things. Amnesia is great. You forget the layout of anything that you haven't seen for the last 20 rounds. Blinking tick is ridiculous. You teleport all over the place. There's a similar thing to that in physical defects, where there's a random chance that something will happen, and that is, if I show it off for a second, if I go down here, spontaneous combustion, which is really tempting to choose for this playthrough, but I have an even more fun sort of defect to choose, and that is Evil Twin. And so let's read this out. Acting on some inscrutable impulse, a parallel version of yourself travels through space and time to destroy you. Each time you embark on a new location, there is a small chance that a parallel version of yourself has tracked you down and attempts to destroy you. That is a character trait. That is super cool. So I can have that, and then I'm going to do a heavy physical character, so I'm going to do all sorts of stuff. I'm going to give myself a tough carapace, which also gives me reputation with tortoises, which is super great. And then I am also going to take night vision, so I can see in the dark. Photosynthetic skin, which is super great because that way if I'm walking around in the sunlight, I gain health. I also have a lot of reputation boost to trees and vines. So before we were like, oh, the Templars, those are cool, but then you realize that trees and turtles and bears have their own reputation, which is really, really neat. And then I also want multiple arms because I'm going to want to carry multiple swords, multiple shields, and just be really, really tough. Let's see what else we can do for some really interesting things. I can have wings if I really wanted to. when you have certain physical attributes, you're not able to do stuff. So I wouldn't be able to wear anything on my back. Excuse me. But then again, I did choose carapace right there, and that means I can't wear armor. I just sort of have natural armor. Double muscled will actually do, so I will have extra strength. So I'm just this hulking brute with a shell and photosynthetic skin and multiple arms. I'm like a turtle version of Goro with swords. But I want to do that because I want to survive, so we'll do that. And then you have character classes, which can sometimes give you items. So the Arcanaut begins with random junk and artifacts. The Gunslinger will have guns and reputation with mysterious strangers. But what I think I will take is a Warden. They have shields and swords they're really good at. I would get a boost to my strength skill, but I can't actually boost my strength skill anymore, so maybe like from a min-max perspective, that's sort of silly, but let's not worry about that. I like their starting equipment, so that's that. So I am a double-muscled, multiple-armed, night vision, photosynthetic, skin-covered, carapace-encased Warden tromping about the post-apocalyptic, semi-mystical wastelands of Cud. And as I do that, there is a small chance that my evil twin from an alternate dimension of space-time will show up and try to kill me. I don't know about you, but that sounds like a really cool character. And note, it didn't ask me what my gender was. Doesn't matter. It's not like some traits are for, men, some are for women, some are non-gendered, all these things. It's just whatever you want to do, you can do, and then your imagination will fill in the rest. And we'll talk about imagination as I go through this quest. I know you're desperate to get started. We've been on the character creation screen for too long. What is my name? It is going to be, oh god, I don't know, Yara. Because I think that was the name of a character I was using earlier today. So here we go. I won't read too much of everything that's going on, but we'll start off. The language in this game is really evocative. The only other game that sort of evoked this sense of mystery and wonderment and mysticism and fantasy in me is Morrowind, because that game also has beautiful sights and wonderful prose in some of its writing. But anyway, here we go. On the 26th of Shwut Uks, you arrive at the the desert hamlet of Joppa, along the far rim of Mogra-Yi, the great salt desert. All around you, moisture farmers tend to groves of viridian water vine. There are huts wrought from rock salt and brine stalk. On the horizon, Cud's jungles strangle chrome steeples and rusted archways to the earth. Further and beyond, the fabled spindle raises from the fray and pierces the cloud-ribboned sky. So here we are. The graphics, not quite ASCII art, so it's not really completely copying Rogue. Rogue, the original roguelike, even though that's silly. It is Rogue, and then there are roguelikes. Came out in the 1980s. It's fun to play. I like NetHack a little bit better. That's from 1987. A lot of people played Dwarf Fortress. I'm not into that as much. But here we are. I like the art style here because it actually reminds me a little bit more of the early Ultima games, and I loved those games very much. So I'm this little fella moving down here. And one thing I really like about this game is that you can look at everything around you, so, it just latches on to points of interest. So we can check out this fellow here, for instance, a zealot of the six-day stilt. He preaches the chromic gospel of the mechaminimist. Precious saliva flies from his cracked lips, but he's far too wrapped in the music of his words to notice. He's equipped with the Canticles Chromaic, verses 17 to 24. Very cool. So we will actually get 2 quests, and we will complete one or the other. We'll probably just complete the one. Maybe we'll try and complete both. So we will talk to this fellow here. We can look over. This is Mehmet. Years of the desert have taken their toll on his body, but he commands your ear with his voice like few other men. And you wonder what sovereignty he might have come to were he not born a moisture farmer. He is loved by the villagers of Joppa. He is admired by crabs for making them feel welcome at a supper feast. He is hated by birds for eating all of their fruit. All of those faction things, with the exception of being loved by the villagers, all procedurally generated. Pardon my pronunciation. So let's talk to Mehmet. Live and drink, friend. May you find shade in Joppa. I am in search of work. Some critters are eating our water vine. Farouk claims he saw one slinking around a vine patch. Ugly little thing, he says, pale white, 8 legs and an ear-splitting whine. I noticed a bit of red dirt in the water vine pool, the same we find in the soil at a nearby cave to the north we call Red Rock. Travel to Red Rock and kill as many of the critters as you can. Bring back the corpse of one, too. Elder Urudad will reward you for your efforts. I will do as you ask. I have a new quest. Wonderful. And then there is a fellow inside here, and you can see we have that little field of view, fog of war deal going on. Strange fellow here. He mumbles to himself. Basically, he wants me to get him a knick-knack, which means he just wants me to grab him a relic. So I will go and get this knick-knack for you. So we have 2 quests. There are chests here, but if I open them, the town will certainly not take a liking to me stealing other people's things. And so here we go. Caves of Cud, the nice thing about it is that every square that you're in is proc generated, right? So this square has all this going on, which is basically nothing, but if I move up, this square is being generated as I approach, and there's, some stuff going on here, right? There's a giant dragonfly, but it doesn't really care about me too much. There is an equimax. The musculature of this strapping, tranquil beast is so pronounced that it looks as though the muscles themselves might burst through its rich auburn coat. Great tufts of white hair surround its massive hooves, which it rears every so often while it grazes. Very tough enemy, but it is neutral to me, and I don't wish to fight it. So instead what we can do is we can go to the world map here. So you'd be tempted to think that each of these squares is one of the randomly generated sections, and I don't know if that's entirely correct, but this is the entire world map. The base locations of spaces don't change, so you can actually see the red rock right above me. I can move up, and I see red rock, and I can enter red rock. And I've traveled there, so I get a little bit of experience, and now I'm here, and I want to find my way inside of the caverns. Find myself some artifacts, and go from there. Oh, fantastic. I found the stairs. So the stairs go down. Let us go downstairs. Everything is randomly generated, and I feel like something tried to attack me there. I am overwhelmed by terror. I am fleeing from dreadroot. Oh, so I must have encountered a plant, a terrifying plant that scares me. There is dreadroot. Its swollen tubers hum. Ooh, that is not good. It made me run away against my will, so let's move away from the dreadroot. There are still things in these dungeons and in the game world that I haven't encountered, and plenty of factions and quests and other things. And you're always moving about, and you're always looking at things. There's a campfire remains down here. My character themselves has an iron buckler on their arm, so a little shield, and then a longsword in their other arm. But I'm going to find some bad guys and hopefully take their stuff. So let's talk about the sort of, the minimal nature of the user experience here and sort of what's presented to us. So I just entered a room, and there's a monster here, and I can, of course, like I always do, examine it, right? So a snapjaw scavenger, tussocks of fur, dress skin stretched over top muscle. Upright it stands, but it looks ready to drop onto its fours. Its snout snarls, and its ears twitch. It barks, and its hyena tribesmen answer. I can see it's equipped with a mace, and it can attack me by biting me, and it has some armor on it. So I have this scenario playing out in front of me, and it's just some simple art next to another enemy, and so I have to use my imagination to fill things in, and people forget that imagination, and I've said this before in Let's Plays and things like that, but I've never really sat and explicated on it in a way that I think is substantial, is that imagination is a type of play, which makes sense because when we are little, we play imaginary games all the time. We have imaginary friends, but I look at this interface and I have to fill in the gaps. So I'm moving down this hallway and this thing is chasing me, right? But what's going on here? So I'm really this hulking, photosynthetic adventurer diving into a dark cave being chased by a snarling, ravenous monster. And all I have to really understand that is this very simple visual experience in front of me. But then, and then combat's not as exciting too. I kind of hit it. And of all things, with my multiple arms, I actually hit it with my lit torch and damaged it. And then all I sort of have left is this sort of blood splatter on the ground. But I can imagine, it's chasing me down the hall, and I turn and I sort of hit it with my flame and it kills it. Maybe the creature lights on fire or something like that. And when we engage in processes like that, when we engage in imaginative thought, right, one of the nice things about that, and we'll remove our torch and we'll equip one of the maces. So now with my multiple arms, I have a longsword and a mace and 2 lit torches. So you can imagine how ridiculous that is. I lost the sentence I was going to say, but I suppose my point is that there's all of this action happening, and all I can do to sort of really draw myself into it is really use my imagination to really sort of draw myself into what's going on. And of course, I want to take this club and equip. So, I'm going through these caverns, and that's just my inventory. I want my character screen. I'm going through these caverns. There are these terrible monsters, and all I have to really represent all of these things is very simple means. But the more that I buy into the fiction, and the more that I sort of engage with the game frenetically, and say to myself, well, listen, this is really exciting, I want to be a part of this, the more that I can get from it in return. I think in the past I've sort of spoken about this in the context of semiotic engagements, which means, taking images and ascribing some sort of value to them, which I usually tend to mean to be like narrative value or sort of interpretive value, right? So I'm playing Shadow of the Colossus. I did a series on that, and I have to determine, based off of Shadow of the Colossus and what's in front of me, what are the nature of some of these characters. And I had to flee from the dreadroot, and it made me run into a wall, of all things. So you can imagine a ridiculous story there. Just funny scenarios. And all I have to imagine from that, again, all I have is like this really weird representation of a freaking couple blades of grass and then my character moving out of my control. So some of that engagement comes from sort of ludic aspects. I lost control, and so I feel that loss of control. That that's some sort of abstract feeling for fear. Shadow of the Colossus. I'm getting distracted. Yeah. So most people, when they want to engage with a thing semiotically, it tends to be oh, this happened in the text, and then I interpret it to mean this. But they don't always realize that generally video games on a whole are these semiotic engagements where you ascribe value to the images that you're already seeing. So I just want to see all the things I have. So I have some jerky. I have a couple corpses to bring back. I want to find a relic if possible, but the corpses are really, really heavy. So I actually want to see if I can drop not 32 of them. I'm not carrying a whole army of corpses. I want to drop 2 of them. So that way I'm not carrying too much shit. And then actually, let's not do that, but go back here. And what I want to do is actually, I'm going to get rid of this lit torch in my hand and this long sword, and instead I'm going to put a 2-handed sword on my right hand. So I have a mace and a club on my left-hand side, and my other 2 big multiple arms are holding a 2-handed sword that I will swing around. Really fun, really cool stuff. A seed-spitting vine hit me for damage. Oh my gosh, it's right there. Oh, there's a lot of enemies. This is a terrifying experience to be in. I think I will probably not survive this dungeon. If I do kill these enemies, I'll head right back upstairs. So all I'm saying is this. Look at the scenario I'm in. It's an exciting scenario when you think about it. A story, I'm going down into this cave. All of a sudden now there's a vine spitting seeds at me while I'm trying to face off against like these kobold type monsters while I have all these crazy abilities, and I don't have a lot to represent that. Um, and it's a really exciting experience, and I need to see if I'll make the stairs. Oh no, I didn't make the stairs. I thought I was going to make it. Okay. So basically, we just went on a crazy, amazing adventure. And, I died sort of without a lot of fanfare, getting killed by a vine that was spitting seeds at me very, very fast. And I didn't even get to encounter my evil twin. But all I had to represent this was some very basic art and a little bit of information about my, stats and everything like that. And that was it. And games like, roguelikes are these things that I think people feel very intimidated by because everything's so obfuscated and they're so difficult, and you have to learn all of these systems, right? Capital S systems, in order to sort of do a good job. But we had a nice little run there. Of course, I died without leveling up to level 2 or anything, but that was still an exciting adventure. And all of that is enhanced if you sit down and really want to engross yourself in the experience. I was just writing about flow the other day, and, well, I'm not going to pontificate on flow because, the video's at its end. I said that games say yes to us. They say yes. And then our job as players is to say and, right? If we think of it in terms of theater, in terms of improv and things like that. You have something before you. The game is extending a hand to you, and it is your job to grab that hand and just buy into the fiction. And the more that you buy into the fiction and the more that you sort of buy into the fun that's in front of you, that's a type of play that's happening right there. And I think it's one of the more fruitful kinds of play besides, just like the adrenaline rush you get from winning a match at the last second or something like that. I think there's something intellectually rewarding, personally nourishing about engaging in a game in that fashion. So I hope, as you watched me go on this adventure and then die very tragically at the hands of a seed-spitting vine, I hope that you sort of used your imagination too, and that's why I like Caves of Cud. It's an amazingly evocative game, despite having such a simple sort of user experience. And here's our summary. I only survived for 374 turns, and I had a score of negative 1,054. Very, very disappointing in terms of what I know I can do with this game. I can go a lot further, and if you level up a lot, it's crazy, but that's the run for today. If you're interested in this game, I highly recommend looking into it, even though it's in early access. I think it's definitely of quality. If you liked watching me play, I can try different builds and play. Just leave a comment, and maybe I'll have a couple more sort of sessions where we explore Caves of Cud, and we'll go over on the overworld and just sort of explore the procedurally generated spaces, and maybe avoid a dungeon and just see how long we can survive in the jungle or something like that. If you like that, let me know. Comment on the thing, give me a thumbs up on the YouTube thing, like it. That's what it is, like it. Whatever. Anything you can do to tell me whether or not you want to see more of this game, let me know, because I think this is absolutely fantastic. Otherwise, thank you for watching so much. That was a fun adventure. I love you very, very much. Have a good day, night, evening, whatever. Eclipse, full moon, harvest moon. Have a good everything. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.